3 bone-chilling true Craigslist horror stories that'll haunt you forever. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows on the streets as Sarah scrolled through Craigslist, searching for a second-hand couch. She didn't expect anything unusual, just a simple bargain. But the first listing shook her to her core. Free couch. Great condition. But you have to come alone. Despite the chill running down her spine, an inexplicable curiosity tugged at her. Why alone? It felt like a dare, dark and enticing, whispering secrets she wanted to uncover. The next ad gripped her with unsettling promise. Worn-out playhouse for sale. Play with caution. Previous owners disappeared. Could it be a joke? A haunting echo of the families who once laughed and played within its faded walls? Every word seemed to pulse with a life of its own. She could almost hear children's laughter mingling with the unsettling silence that followed the warning, the kind that made goosebumps rise on her arms. What happened to them? Why would someone sell a playhouse with such a grim past? Her heart raced, dread and intrigue battling in her mind. Each ad drew her deeper into this web of intrigue. She was a moth to a flame. They all carried a restless energy, secrets swaddled in seemingly innocent details. Vintage mirror only 100, but it shows you more than your reflection. Use at your own risk. A mirror that reveals secrets? Each blink of her eyes seemed to pull her further, as if those ads were alive, hungry for her gaze. Why would anyone want to risk their sanity over something so bizarre? Just as she was about to click away, an alert buzzed in her pocket. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But her thoughts snapped back as the ads flickered like candles in a storm, illuminating the darkness, but also threatening to consume her. Haunting doll collection, beware. They watch you. What kind of madness was this? She rubbed her eyes, trying to shake off the encroaching dread. The energy in the room felt thick, almost suffocating, as a chill swept through her. She was on the edge of a precipice, and she knew it. Did she dare jump? A sudden knock echoed through her apartment, sharp and startling. She turned sharply, heart racing. Who could it be? Maybe it was just her imagination playing tricks, the echo of the ads lingering in her mind. Was it someone inviting her into this sinister world of secrets? Or was it something else entirely? Sarah's pulse quickened. There was no turning back now. What awaited her on the other side? Sarah hesitated, her heart pounding like a drum against her ribcage. The knock came again, louder this time, demanding her attention. She took a deep breath, willing her trembling hands to steady. Was she ready for whatever or whoever was behind that door? With each step toward the entrance, the possible scenarios played in her mind. A lonely neighbor? A delivery? Or perhaps someone who answered the unspoken call of her curiosity? Drawn by the same thread that tugged her into those chilling ads, she peered through the peephole, but it was too dark to see anything. Anxiety twisted in her stomach, and before she could talk herself out of it, Sarah yanked the door open, revealing only the dimly lit hallway stretching before her. There was nobody there. Relieved but still anxious, she squinted into the shadows, feeling the air thicken around her. Maybe it had just been a figment of her imagination, a trick of her rattled nerves. But then, a piece of paper crinkled underfoot. She bent down and picked it up, her fingers brushing against its surface. The note was hastily scribbled, hastening her heartbeat. I know what you're looking for. It's not what you expect. A shiver gripped her spine. Who was watching her? Was this another unsettling twist in the elaborate web of Craigslist? As if pulled by an invisible force, she stepped outside just a foot past her threshold. That S when she saw it. A flicker of movement from the corner of her eye in the adjacent apartment. It was fleeting, but something pale and ghostly seemed to blink in the darkened window. Her breath caught. Should she call out? Should she confront this unknown figure? Instead, she inched closer to the neighboring door, curiosity battling her instincts. What if they held the key to discovering the truth behind those chilling ads? Suddenly, a door creaked open behind her. The sound slithered through the air, and she whipped around, heart racing. An elderly man stood, towering over her with a bemused expression. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he said, voice gravelly with age. "Not at this time." A flicker of concern crossed his features as he glanced toward the darkened hallway behind her. "I saw someone, I saw something." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, her voice a whisper. "Do you believe in spirits?" He replied cryptically, then quickly added, "Let's just say this building has a history. People don't just disappear, they leave pieces behind." His words tangled in her thoughts, igniting a flame of dread and intrigue all over again. What happened to them? Her heart raced again, the urgency clawing at her throat. "Those who seek often find," he said, and then he turned sharply, leaving her with more questions than answers. Sarah's mind battled it out. Was this truly just an old man's ramblings, or was there truth laced in his words? The chill from the ads washed over her again, mingling with the queasy anticipation of what lay ahead. There was something deeper at play here, and she could feel it, a pulse, sinking with her own as she returned to her apartment, grasping the note tighter, her pulse sinking with every word she couldn't yet understand. Just then, she glanced at her phone. A notification lit up the screen. A new ad on Craigslist. She hesitated for only a second before her finger pressed the screen to open it. The bold font read, "Dare to discover? Someone's waiting." Her breath hitched. What was happening? What was she being dragged into? No turning back now. The truth was waiting, beckoning her to dive in deeper. But at what cost? Sarah's heart raced as she stared at the screen, the words blaring at her like a warning siren. She felt both terrified and exhilarated. Her mind swirled with questions, each more pressing than the last. What lay beneath the chilling veneer of those ads? A part of her wanted to close the app and pretend she never opened it. But a stronger urge pushed her forward, a call to discover the truth lurking in the shadows. She tapped the notification and the text expanded, revealing a short message. "Secret room? Hidden door. Only the brave will find it. You already know the first step." It felt like a challenge, one that sent jolts of electricity racing down her spine. Thinking of the elderly man's warning, she wrestled with both fear and an intoxicating curiosity. What first step? What do you mean? She whispered into the empty room, the only reply being the silence that loomed over her. Instinctively, she crossed her arms. Feeling exposed, the very essence of her apartment felt like a cocoon that sheltered her from whatever darkness waited outside. Yet, the thrill of the unknown proved hard to resist. A glance at the clock revealed it was well past midnight. The dead of night. Gathering her courage, she grabbed her coat and slipped on her shoes. The air felt electric around her, whispering of secrets and dangers as she stepped into the hallway once again. It was quiet, almost too quiet. Each creak of the floor felt amplified, echoing in her ears. And then, the faintest sound, a soft scraping noise, came from that adjacent apartment. The same one where she thought she saw movement just moments ago. Swallowing hard, she moved toward the door, her pulse quickening with every step. She stood there, eyes glued to the worn surface. The scraping continued, rhythmic and unnerving. Taking a deep breath, she brought her hand up and knocked gently, the sound muffled in the darkness of the night. "Who's there?" A voice croaked from within, sending a jolt of adrenaline through her as she took a step back. "It's Sarah from next door," she managed to say, her voice trembling. "I thought I saw someone. Are you okay?" The silence that followed felt thick, pressing against her chest. "I'm fine," the voice finally replied, harsh and brittle as if the speaker were breaking apart. "But you shouldn't be here. It's not safe." Panic rose in her throat. Safe from what? From those who seek what they shouldn't, the voice hissed. "You don't want to disturb what slumbers. Get back while you still can." As dread pooled in her gut, Sarah turned to flee. But before she could take a single step, she caught sight of a shadow flitting past the frosted window. It wasn't just a trick of her mind, it was real. Someone or something was watching her. Heart pounding, she spun back toward the door. "Is there someone there?" she shouted, panic creeping into her voice. "Go, now." The voice exploded, a frenzy of urgency that sent shivers racing down her spine. Fumbling, she backed away, but the hallway felt confining, too narrow and dark. She collided with the wall, the cool surface shocking her. What was happening? Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, a new message flashing across the screen. The sender was unknown. "Seek and you shall find. But beware, not all who seek return." Chilled to the bone, she felt an invisible grip tighten around her. How deep did this rabbit hole go? And what awaited those brave enough to leap into the abyss? Glancing back toward the neighboring apartment, she hesitated. Could she really ignore the warning? Could she walk away now, knowing she might regret it forever? Before she made up her mind, the door creaked open farther, an ominous figure emerging in the shadows. Who or what was lurking behind that door, and would it lead Sarah to safety or doom? The figure stepped out, a silhouette against the dim light spilling from the apartment. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat, caught between fight or flight. It was hard to make out any features, but she felt its gaze locking onto her. The air crackled with an unseen tension, and for a moment, time froze. "Leave," the voice yelled again, more forceful this time. Every syllable was drenched in desperation. It felt like a warning, a plea, and Sarah couldn't shake the overwhelming urge to obey. Yet she couldn't tear her eyes away as the figure moved closer. Her heart thumped in her ears. The shadowed face became discernible, a gaunt visage framed by disheveled hair. "You don't understand, do you?" it rasped, a tremor of fear woven through its words. "They're here. They're watching." "Who?" Sarah's voice was barely more than a whisper, a plea for clarity amidst the chaos consuming her mind. She couldn't comprehend what this man, or whatever he was, meant. Was it the same they that sent the mysterious message? With a shaky hand, he pointed toward the narrow hallway behind him, every movement filled with urgency. "The door. You need to see. But not alone." Panic spiraled deeper as something flickered in the darkness beyond, a shadow skimming the edges of her vision. A noise, faint and chilling, rippled through the air, a low, guttural growl that vibrated her bones. Sarah's instincts screamed to run, to escape this escalating horror. Yet, something deeper within made her hesitate, an insatiable curiosity, a painful yearning for understanding. "If I go inside, what will I find?" she managed to ask. "If you're lucky," he replied, his expression shifting to one of raw desperation. "Nothing. But don't think you'll be alone in there. What lies beneath the surface isn't just a secret. It's a hunger." The word hunger sent chills coursing through her. The appetite for secrecy, for darkness, and for, well, she wasn't sure yet. The uncertainty was suffocating. Before she could consider her next move, the scraping noise returned, louder, a harbinger of something closer, something alive hidden in the shadows. "Trust me," the man's voice urged, barely a whisper. "You must decide now. Either walk away, or chase the truth." But no. He stepped back into his apartment, the door almost closing before he slipped through the gap. Before Sarah could react, she heard hurried footsteps approaching from behind, heavy and deliberate. A knot formed in her stomach. Someone was coming, and she was standing in the middle of a terrifying crossroads. At that moment, Sarah's phone buzzed again, lighting up with a new notification. She dared to glance at it, her fingers trembling against the screen. It read, "The shadows tell tales of agony. Your story is about to begin. Choose wisely." Tension bubbled within her, boiling over into explosive fear. The creeping sounds grew nearer, from behind her and from inside the adjacent apartment. The thrill of the unknown began to feel like a tightening noose around her neck. Could she really just turn away? Would she ever forgive herself for the decision she was about to make? As the footsteps grew louder, Sarah's heart raced, and she knew she had to act. But in what direction would she leap into the dark? The edges of her reality blurred, and the choice hung throttle-tight in the air, electrifying and intoxicating. What await her if she opened the door? Or if she fled into the night? One final glance at the doorway and she steeled herself. In that fleeting moment, in that thundering heartbeat, she made her choice, but would the truth save her or swallow her whole? Sarah's feet moved on instinct, the pounding of her heart matching the urgency of the footsteps closing in behind her. With a deep, shaky breath, she made the decision. The door loomed ahead, mysterious and foreboding, a portal to the unknown. She reached for the handle, her hand trembling as she turned it slowly, the metallic click echoing in the tense silence as the door creaked open. A rush of air escaped, almost as if the apartment itself exhaled in relief. Instantly, a cold draft collided with her skin, prickling every nerve ending. Darker shadows slinked inside, weaving through the dim light like whispered secrets. The figure had disappeared into the shadows, leaving Sarah alone on the threshold, heart racing and mind reeling. "Hello?" she called, forcing the quiver from her voice, trying to drown out the creeping dread. No answer came, just an eerie stillness that seemed to swallow her words whole. She stepped inside. The darkness enveloped her like a heavy shroud, the only illumination coming from the pale glow of her phone. Its light cut through the murky air, exposing an apartment that looked like it had been frozen in time. Old newspapers lined the floor, peeling paintings hung crookedly on the walls, each one telling stories of neglect and sorrow. A faint odor of mildew and something metallic curled around her nostrils, but curiosity propelled her forward. The shadows shifted, prompting her to spin around, expecting to see the man again, but the only sound was the soft rustle of the wind outside. She swallowed hard, her throat dry, as she ventured deeper. "Find what you seek." The man's whispered warning lingered at the back of her mind, intertwining with a primal fear that knotted her stomach. Just then, a sound, something skittering across the floor, like nails on a chalkboard. Sarah froze. A low growl rumbled from the darkness to her right, and her eyes darted toward it, wide with terror. "Show yourself," she demanded, her voice stronger than she felt. A challenge that reverberated back at her through the shadows, with her phone held aloft. She caught a glimpse of it, a pair of eyes gleaming in the dark, hungry and wild, the unmistakable figure of something more than just a hungry creature. Was it real? Could it even be what the man had warned her about? Before she could process any more, a jumble of thoughts flooded her mind. Would embracing the darkness lead her to salvation or obliteration? "Please, just go." A whisper trembled through the air, as sorrowful as the eyes she now faced. The voice was feminine, a quavering breath of desperation. "You don't belong here." Pulsing with adrenaline, Sarah's instincts to flee clashed with an urgency to understand. "Why? What's happening here?" The creature stepped into the light, revealing a figure that was all too familiar. A woman, drawn and haggard, with dark circles under her eyes, her face a mask of despair. Sarah recognized glimpses of pain in her expression, reflecting a harsh reality that struck with raw impact. "They want tea, let us go." The woman's voice shook as she spoke, trembling fingers pointing toward a shadowy corner that seemed to twist and pulsate, alive with dark energy. "You must leave before they come for you too." Suddenly, a shrill laugh burst through the apartment, slicing the tense atmosphere like a knife. In that moment of chaos, Sarah felt it as a surge, a hunger rising from within the depths of the room that she had never imagined. Could this entity and the shadows of the woman really be what they claimed? Was she stepping deeper into something beyond comprehension? Fueled by terror and the urge to understand, Sarah couldn't turn back. The laughter grew louder, mocking. "The truth can be a delicious lie," it echoed, and Sarah was left wondering what secrets lived beneath the surface. Desperate for escape, but ensnared by temptation as the shadows thickened around her, straining to pull her into an abyss she couldn't see. Sarah realized the choice wasn't simply to flee or linger. It was about confronting the darkness not just outside but within herself. What if understanding the truth came at a price? What if the choice was hers alone to make, hunt for clarity or succumb to the shadows? She was running out of time, and the whispers grew more insistent, echoing with a single warning. The door closes soon. Choose wisely. The shadows shifted around Sarah, pressing closer, a mass of whispers crawling into her ears. The woman's warning echoed in her mind, a chant that felt both alarmingly real and hauntingly distant. Please, leave, the woman urged again, her eyes shimmering with unspoken terror. Who are they? Sarah's voice trembled. The question hung heavy in the air, as if it had called forth the very darkness that enveloped them. The woman looked down, her face contorting in anguish, but from the depths of the shadows came another chilling laugh. It reverberated through the room, mocking and sinister. They are the ones who take. She managed to breathe, glancing sideways as if expecting something to leap from the depths. They hold us here, trapped in this endless loop. Fear twisted in Sarah's chest, pinching it like a vice. Trapped? Why doesn't anyone come for you? A guttural growl interrupted her, low and menacing, crawling from the depths of that impossible shadow. This time, the woman took a step back, seemingly more afraid of the dark than of Sarah. They don't allow it, she whispered, anguish seeping through her voice. They feast on despair. They will come for you too if you linger. Sarah's heart thundered. The glowing screen of her phone flickered, the flickering light revealing contorted faces hidden among the shadows, etched with sorrow and malice. It felt like standing on the edge of a towering abyss, one wrong move away from falling in and disappearing forever. Please, the woman pleaded, now more insistent. You have to leave. The door won't be here for long. But something deep inside Sarah refused to let her retreat. She felt the urge to understand the how and why. The darkness and despair before her were palpable, rich with emotion and history. I can't just leave you here. As she declared it, the laughter turned into a chorus, a symphony of derision that twisted the very air. Such noble intentions. They jeered, every word like a knife. But be careful what you wish for, little girl. The shadows pulsed, alive with energy as tendrils reached out, brushing against her skin like ice. Sarah stepped back, startled, only for her heel to connect with something solid, a wooden table, the surface slick with time and stains. It wobbled beneath her touch, sending reverberations through the air to stir a nearby window, rattling it awake with a clatter. Flee before they come, the woman rasped desperately, her gaze fixated on the abyss into which Sarah would fall if she didn't act quickly. With one last sweeping glance into the dancing shadows, Sarah made her decision. I will find a way to help you, she shouted, channeling whatever courage she had left. Maybe she could help this woman if she could face whatever lurked in the dark. Just hold on, you fool. The shadows hissed in a siren-esque song, weaving around her like smoke. You have no idea what price you'll pay. And just as quickly, everything changed. The atmosphere crackled, vibrating with danger. The air grew thick with dread as the shadows twisted into grotesque forms, revealing sinister figures closing in around her. Time is up, the woman's urgent voice cut through, thin and sharp as glass. Run. Panic surged, crackling through her veins as she turned toward the doorway, its light now dimming, the threshold shrinking. But there was something darker than just the shadows in the air, a predatory energy, a hunger that clawed at her insides. She darted back toward the exit, but the darkness loomed larger, blurring her path, and shadows began to form a barrier between her and the door. Hope swelled momentarily, bursting forth amid the terror. If she could just reach the door, everything would be fine. But as she sprinted forward, the room erupted with laughter, mocking, derisive, echoing as she bore down on the light. Sacrifice or salvation? Came the velvety murmur from the dark, enticing and sinister all at once. The question remains, can you survive the truth? As Sarah raced toward the door, the shadows coiled tighter, ready to snatch her back. Would she make it before the door closed? Caught between two worlds, all she could hear was the pounding of her heart, drowning out the laughter and the relentless cry of the pleading woman fading into the darkness. Time was slipping away, and the choice lay heavy on her shoulders. Would she break free, or would she, like so many before her, succumb to the abyss? The threshold awaited her, but did she dare cross it? With a final deep breath, Sarah lunged for the door, leaving everything behind. But as she crossed the threshold, a chilling voice rang out, "You cannot escape your fate." And then, everything went black. Darkness swallowed Sarah whole, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. She gasped, her lungs burning as if she were underwater, lost in the depths of something infinitely vast. For a fleeting moment, fear turned to confusion. She was supposed to be free, yet here she was, suspended in nothingness, the shadows a fading whisper behind her. Slowly, her eyes adjusted, unveiling an eerie, dimly lit space. The air smelled musty, a combination of damp wood and forgotten memories. Ghostly light flickered like dying fireflies, and she quickly realized she wasn't alone. Figures drifted in and out of her sight, just beyond the edges of comprehension. They were human yet not, their features warped and indistinct, like paintings left in the rain. "Sarah," a voice echoed, soft yet unearthly. It slid into her mind, intertwining with her thoughts. "You think you can save her? Who are you?" she whispered, shaking slightly as she felt tendrils of uncertainty creeping back in. They felt like fingers, spider-like, grazing against her skin. "We are the lost," they chorused, a haunting multitude. "We are the ones who failed, the ones who stayed too long." Sarah's heart crashed against her ribcage. The woman, the warning she remembered. Each second felt like a grain of sand slipping through her fingers. "Where's the door? I need to go back." "Back?" Another voice scoffed, laced with bitterness. "There's no back to return to. The door you sought was a mirage, just another trick of the shadows." The truth lay heavy, pooling in her stomach. She had traded her safety for a chance to help someone else, someone who was doomed to this darkness. "But I can't leave. I need to find her. Help her." Anguish clawed at her throat. "You must follow the path," sighed a figure shrouded in gauzy black, shimmering with shadows of their own pasts. "But the toll for passage is high. Are you willing to pay it?" "What toll?" Sarah's voice trembled with dread, each word brazenly challenging the void that closed in around her. The figures closed in, their eyes glimmering like stars trapped in a well, a reflection of hope and despair. "Your memories, your truths. What haunts you most?" They beckoned, urgency crackling in the air. Memories surged, her childhood fears, the heartbreak of betrayal, the loneliness that gripped her during sleepless nights. They played back, unbidden, vivid and raw. Would relinquishing these fragments unlock the way, or deepen the void within her? "No," she shouted, panic fueling the fire of her determination. "I won't give them up. Then you will never find her." They hissed, the weight of their words pressing down on her. Darkness quivered, the entities shifting and wailing like trapped spirits. "You risk everything, Sarah. The question is she worth your truth?" The weight of the choice shifted painfully within her. She had always believed in the power of compassion, the instrumental role of sacrifice. But now, facing the grim price, she wavered. Could she endure this burden? To relinquish all that she was for someone who may already be lost? A piercing laugh broke through her inner turmoil, reverberating off the walls of despair. "Will you choose to remain shackled? Or will you dare step into the light of your darkest truths?" In that moment, Sarah glimpsed the woman's face in her mind, the shimmer of hope clashing with fear. Could she turn back? Could she really leave someone to those shadows? The abyss beckoned, leaving her with a dreadful ultimatum. And as the shadows shimmered menacingly, a throaty whisper filled the space. "Time for your choice is running out. What will you sacrifice?" She clenched her fists, ready to make a decision that could alter everything. But just as she drew in a breath to respond, the air thickened again. A suffocating silence wrapped around her tightly, and the darkness murmured its eerie lullaby. For Sarah, the course was no longer about escaping but confronting. What awaited her beyond the veil of dread? Could she brave the depths of her nightmares and emerge free, or had she already sealed her fate? As one final shadow flickered, nearer, More tangible, she felt the heat of a ghostly presence close in, whispering a name she had never known. Choose wisely, you may never get another chance. And then, everything darkened into silence. A shattering clang echoed in the emptiness. Sarah's heart jolted, each thump echoing like thunder in her ears. The darkness wasn't just still. It was alive, pulsating as if it were a creature stirring from a long slumber. Choose, the voices urged, their tones swirling around her like a storm. What are you willing to give up, Sarah? She felt the question gripping her throat, tightening until her breath came in ragged gasps. They were all around her, shadows coalescing into something almost solid, needling at her resolve. Memories flashed in her mind. Unbidden, her mother's final, tear-streaked goodbye. The thrill of her first love turned to ashes as his face twisted with rage. Would she give those up? Sacrifice everything she'd ever felt to plunge into this void of uncertainty? Your truth weighs heavier than the darkness, a whisper sliced through the confusion. The shadows shifted, revealing fragmented images, a child's laughter layered over muffled sobs. The faces of strangers, pleading eyes, desperate hands reaching out. Please, help us, one of the figures called, their voice laced with despair. It was all too much. Each plea pooled inside her, flooding her mind with anguish. Make it stop, Sarah cried, stumbling backward as thoughts collided, crashing against one another like waves in a tempest. Sweat trickled down her spine, pooling at the base of her neck. She had to grapple with this choice. Was she strong enough to bear the burden of her truths? In a flash of clarity, she blurted, I choose my memories. I want to give them. A collective wind seemed to gasp, and the shadows recoiled. So shall it be, they intoned, a mixture of anger and respect threading through their voices. But the air felt like a slap in the face, cold and unforgiving. Suddenly, a figure ghosted forward, blurred, but unmistakably familiar. It was her. The young Sarah, the immature version of herself, eyes wide and unblemished by the world. Lost, alone. You think they care for you? They'll bury you if you stay. The shadow Sarah screamed, her words sharp like broken glass. Shut up, Sarah shot back, defensive fury igniting within her. The child's face twisted in anguish, making her heart ache. Was this what she had once been? A scared girl chasing dreams? Each layer of darkness that engulfed the figure seemed to wrap around her own heart, trap her in its grasp. The shadows encircling her pulsed with energy, tightening like a noose. Skeletal fingers clawed at her. You cannot escape your fears, Sarah, they hissed. They will always find you. In the face of that horrifying truth, panic surged again. She felt herself teetering on the edge. Tell me the door. Just point me to her. You must confront your demons, face the reason you find yourself here. A figure urged, its voice resonating with an eerie calmness, breaking through the chaos around her. A sharp breath filled her lungs as clarity swelled. Maybe this was the darkness her mother had spoken of. The fear that wormed its way through her life. Tears blurred her vision, each drop a fragment of strength. I want to be afraid, she shouted, forcing every ounce of determination into the words. But before any action erupted, the shadows spiraled around her, laughter bubbling up from the abyss, mocking her resolve. We'll see. They breathed, coiling tighter until the whispers reached a fevered pitch. You can't escape what you've become. All at once, the air quaked with an intensity that knocked her to her knees. Darkness surged around her like a tidal wave, threatening to plunge her beneath the surface of dread. Get up, Sarah. A voice roared from within the chaos, fighting against her subconscious. It was her own, familiar yet foreign. You're stronger than this. That mantra struck deep, reigniting a flicker of hope against the consuming darkness. The shadows pulsed violently, but she stood, shaking off lingering despair. Show me then. Show me the way. In a fevered rush, the darkness hesitated, momentarily resting on the cusp of her command. But shadows slithered closer, hungry and desperate, watching, waiting. She felt the grip of fate tightening around her, an itchy pressure against her skin. The figures tensed, anticipation hanging in the air. What awaited her as she moved forward? Would her resolve hold? Or would she drown in the darkness she was so desperate to escape? And whispering just beyond her reach, a chilling reminder hummed in the air. Your past shapes your future, choose wisely. The shadows trembled at her command, the air thick with palpable tension as they pulsed like a living thing. Sarah squinted against the darkness, searching for a sign. Were they shifting to reveal a path, a way out? But instead, the murmurs grew sharper. Your memories have chained you, Sarah. One voice echoed, a sneer lacing its words. They feed on your fear. No, she cried, feeling the tendrils of despair grip her tighter. I control them. They're mine. But even as she vocalized her defiance, the shadows began to morph into scenes of her life, fragmented memories materializing just beyond the veil of her perception. Each one shot through her like icy daggers, barbed and biting. Here was her high school graduation, a smiling face beneath a cap, proud, hopeful, yet tinged with the fear of the unknown. Next, her father's fateful stroke echoed painfully, and she could hear the frenzied voices around her mixing with sterile hospital sounds. The helplessness swallowed her like a black hole, and she stumbled back as if struck. Face the truth, Sarah. A shadow hissed behind her. This is who you are. This is what you've done. No, she rasped, shaking her head furiously. This I sentimi. I will not be reduced to this. With a defiant shout, she thrust her arm forward, willing the darkness to separate, to reveal whatever lay beyond. Just as the shadows began to part, a chilling laugh erupted, wrapping around her tightly, squeezing the breath from her lungs. The shadow figures gleamed with grotesque satisfaction. Did you really think it would be that easy? The air hummed with the weight of her turmoil, thick with unresolved pain. Panic raced through her veins. She felt roots of despair burrowing into her heart, whispering lies that flooded her mind. Why do you think your mother left? She couldn't handle the weight, they taunted, closing the distance with creeping dread. Stop, she screamed, crumpling as jagged rocks of memory pressed against her ribs. Then, rising from the shadows, a figure emerged, its face shrouded yet undeniably her own. You're scared, aren't you? Shadow Sarah purred with an eerie smile. You're afraid of what you might find, what it means to be you. In that moment, the world shattered again. An overwhelming rush swept over her, carrying with it flashes of regret intertwined with dread. Every mistake, every fear wrapped around her like chains. She felt small, vulnerable. No more. Her voice held determination, vibrating through the darkness. I'm here. I won't back down. The shadows paused, momentarily thrown off their rhythm by her fierce cry. She could see the resistance. The swirling mass hesitated, as if unsure of how to react to her force. Recognize your strength, Sarah. A new voice, a blend of calm and assurance, whispered through the haze. This was no shadow. This was the voice of her mother, not as a phantom, but an echo of the comfort she'd once provided. The warmth flooded her. With renewed purpose, she took a step closer to the apparition that mirrored her own terrified face. You can't have my past. You dictate my future. In the next heartbeat, the shadows let out a collective shriek, twisting and writhing violently, as if tearing themselves apart. The chaos around her exploded with energy, the air crackling like a storm about to break. Like an avalanche, memories shot forward, laughs, heartbreaks, moments of kindness, all the echoes of a life lived, and then silence. Everything felt frozen for an agonizing eternity. Sarah stood at the edge of a precipice, the darkness swirling around her like a hungry beast. The shadows swarmed, pushing her toward the chasm, the very essence of her fears clawing to drag her down. Find the light, Sarah. Her mother's voice resounded within her, a guiding light piercing through the veil of night. Could she escape her past? Could she embrace the truth without surrendering to the darkness swallowing her whole? And then, freezing all motion, a single point of radiant light appeared in the distance. Would it show her the way? Or was it just another trick of the shadows? Face it, the darkness roared, echoing her fears. You know you can't outrun it. As Sarah took a step toward the brightness, the whispers shrieked in a cacophony. Don't let the light blind you. In that breath she paused. Would the path she chose lead to salvation or damnation? What would she uncover when she walked toward the light, and what would she leave behind? With a fierce determination, Sarah stepped forward, the light beckoning her like a lighthouse in the fog. Each move felt weighty, both exhilarating and treacherous. The shadows howled behind her, a chaotic symphony chanting her fears. You'll regret it. You'll lose yourself. They were struggling, thrashing, slithering against her resolve. But she could feel it, a warmth radiating from that illumination, a promise of clarity and truth. Each step swallowed a piece of the darkness that clung to her, like melting snow under the sun. I am not afraid, she shouted, the words reverberating through the chaos, igniting her spirit. She wouldn't just confront the shadows. She emerged triumphant as she ventured closer. The golden light spilled over her, filling the cracks in her heart with comfort and strength. Memories flooded her. The laughter of friends, the embrace of family, the joy of small victories. These were the things worth fighting for. Tears sprang to her eyes, a mix of grief and joy, a catharsis igniting her soul. Suddenly, the darkness recoiled, swirling faster as if trying to extinguish the light. The figures shrieked, their voices hissing with ire and desperation. No, you don't belong there. Their grasp tightened, and Sarah felt their icy fingers clutching at her ankles. She could sense it, the fear of the shadows was palpable, for they knew the power of light. They fed on dread, and she was stealing their meal. The shimmering radiance enveloped her, merging with her very essence, an unstoppable current propelling her forward. I won't abandon those who need saving, she yelled, feeling each word solidify her resolve. And then she saw her, the woman trapped in the shadows, pale and worn, yet with a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Please don't leave me, she whispered, her voice fragile. In that instant, Sarah understood. This was her chance, not just to escape, but to rescue another from the relentless grip of despair. I'm coming for you, she cried, reaching out in a heartbeat that felt infinite. The woman reached back, fingers trembling in the dim light, and they locked eyes, two souls bound by the essence of fear but ignited by the fire of courage. The darkness roiled violently, a cacophony of rage bursting forth. You cannot. Shadowy tendrils lunged for Sarah, but the light pulsed stronger, brighter. It was a force fueled by her determination, her memories, and her unwillingness to be consumed. With one final burst of energy, Sarah lunged forward, grasping the woman's hand, pulling her toward the light. Together, they tore free from the pull of the darkness, and the shadows screeched, the sound echoing through what felt like eternity. With a dazzling flash, they broke the surface, the abyss collapsing back into itself like a candle snuffed out. Sarah tumbled onto solid ground, panting. Sunlight bathed her face, warmth flooding her senses. They lay together on the floor, both breathing heavily, heartbeats synchronizing. The world spun back into clarity, the heaviness of shadows dissipating into the ether. The woman blinked, realizing she was free, the chains of despair shattered around them. Thank you, she murmured, tears glistening like dew droplets on petals. I thought I was lost forever. Sarah smiled, her heart swelling as relief washed over her. We're free. Together, the darkness was gone, and the light hummed softly around them, a delicate promise of hope and recovery. Then, that haunting silence returned, no shadows, only the rhythmic ticking of a clock. The truth of their shared experience sat heavy, yet it felt transformative. Sarah had faced down her fears and emerged intact as they stood together, gazing around the now ordinary apartment. A single thought flooded Sarah's mind. This is just the beginning. Hand in hand, they stepped into the living room, where curtains billowed with a gentle breeze. With every step, they felt lighter, the weight of the world no longer a burden but a call to carry forward the warmth of second chances. And as Sarah turned to the woman, who would now step into a new chapter, she whispered, "Let us create new memories, ones filled with light." With that promise lingering in the air, Both women embraced their newfound freedom, ready to write their stories anew. They walked into the endless possibilities of the day, the sunlight trailing just behind them, illuminating the path ahead. Their pasts would always be a part of them, the joys and the pains, but now, they held the power to shape their own futures. As they stepped into the outside world, it was not the end. It was the beginning of a life reclaimed from darkness. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could transport you into different worlds. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and what you think will happen next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is your chance to connect and engage with the community that loves these stories. Your support makes all the difference.